So the 2021 college basketball season is over. March Madness is done. We know that Baylor beat Gonzaga in the national championship. So we are going to start getting into the 2021 draft process and really figure out who's going where in the draft. So the draft is in for a little bit. It's in July. The lottery is in June this year, which is a little bit later than usual. But it's never too early to get your mock drafts out. So we are doing our post-March Madness mock draft today. We are going to be doing a full first round mock. Yes, it'll be my first round mock on the channel. The last couple of mocks for the 2021 draft, I have been using it in a lottery format, and we're just going to be doing no lottery. We're not simulating the lottery here. We are just going to be doing the current NBA standings, and on April 23rd, the Houston Rockets have the #1 overall pick. And as much as I think they can use an Evan Mobley and have him and Christian Wood being their long-term pieces in their front court, #1, no matter the team you are, even if you already have your franchise point guard, you make it work. You go Cade Cunningham. He maybe learns behind John Wall for a year. Probably not. You probably try to work both of them into the starting five, because I think they can play off each other 100%, even though they're both not really entitled to be off-ball players. They're kind of better with the ball in their hands. But I think either way, you got to go Cade Cunningham, #1 overall, if you are the Houston Rockets. And this is an interesting #2 pick now for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who could obviously use a Cade Cunningham. And I think the consensus #2 is Evan Mobley. Now, Evan Mobley is more of a 5, but I think he can be a 4 on both the offensive floor and guard 4s on the defensive floor. Therefore, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves finally found their power forward next to Cat in that front court in Evan Mobley, a guy that could shoot at an okay level, and it could definitely translate over to the pro game. He's a great defender, a great shot blocker, and yeah, Cat, not known as the best defender there in the front court, gives him a nice piece to help him out there on both sides of the floor. So I think that would be a no-brainer pick for Minnesota still at #2. So this is where it's a little bit interesting for Detroit, because they have Killian Hayes, a primary guard or ball handler that they used a top 10 pick on in the 2020 draft. They have Jeremy Grant, who's in their front court more likely, so maybe he's kind of too similar as a position as Jonathan Kuminga. But when you're picking this high in this draft, you're going best player available always. But I'm a big fan of Jalen Green, and I think they would go Jalen Green to be with Killian Hayes in that backcourt. I think Jalen Green would work better with Hayes than Jalen Suggs would be. I think they both would want the ball in their hands, Hayes and Suggs, but Green is somebody that can play off ball, and I think that would be a great pick for the Detroit Pistons. Now, on #4, you might be like, Matt, Jalen Suggs, is he really going to go here? I don't think so. I think it's going to be Jonathan Kuminga if this is how the draft would go, just because the Magic have 3 young point guards already in RJ Hampton, who's, I guess, kind of like a combo guard, but Cole Anthony also, and Markelle Fultz. Would they really draft another one in Jalen Suggs? I know he's listed as a shooting guard, but he's probably going to be a point guard in the NBA. He's going to be a 1. I think they would go Jonathan Kuminga here out of the G League Unite, because he's somebody that can replace Aaron Gordon, what they traded away at the deadline. He could work there as a forward combo with Jonathan Isaac, and him and Isaac can run some really small ball lineups. You already kind of have your centers though next year in Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba. Get another wing player in Jonathan Kuminga and have him and Jonathan Isaac, the Jonathans, there you go, be your wing tandem for the future, and don't overthink this pick. So I think Kuminga will go at #4. And at #5, the OKC Thunder, who have been losing a lot of games as of late. This is a no-brainer. You take Jalen Suggs. I think you can roll with a Jalen Suggs and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander backcourt. I think it would work out perfectly. You already have some other young pieces on this team like Kukusevsky, Theo Maledon, Darius Bazley, Lou Dort. You're going to be getting your first-round pick in this draft no matter what. So, hey, they're going to end up with a top 10 pick guaranteed from theirs or from their record. But if the Houston Rockets fall to the top 4, they can get another top 10 pick, and who knows what they can add there. Imagine they end up getting 5, and their pick gets into the top 5. Ooh, and they can let 2 blue chip prospects. That would be crazy. But Jalen Suggs would be the pick here, in my opinion, and that's how my top 5 is gone. And this is going to be the consensus top 5. Not in the exact player order, but these 5 players will go in the top 5. Now, on to the 6th overall pick. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers would love to be in the top 5 to take a Jonathan Kuminga to add him to their team, or an Evan Mobley. Imagine Evan Mobley, Jared Allen front court for the future. That'd be very fun. A lot of blocks would be, a lot of shots would be blocked, is what I meant to say. But it's really up in the air who's going to go 6th overall. There's a plethora of players that could be here at this pick that the Cavs could be interested in. I'm going to have them go Scotty Barnes, who can maybe project to be their long-term 4, and you can have an Okoro, who's not had the greatest offensive rookie season, but boy, is he look very sharp on the defensive end for a rookie. You already have Jared Allen as your center. Plug somebody in right there in the middle of the 2 in Scotty Barnes, who's a playmaking 4 who could potentially be a good shooter in the NBA as well, and he could be honestly one of the more blue chip guys not going in the top 5 in this class the way he's playing the game at the collegiate level and what it can do in the NBA level, because can he be a 4 that could play defense, guard positions 1 through 4? Can he be a good playmaker? Can he be a good shooter? If he can check off all 3 of those things, passing, shooting, and defending at that 4 position, which is so scarce in the NBA to find 3 and D4s that can also play make a little bit. Boom, there's a blue chip guy right there that the Cleveland Cavaliers could end up with. So on to the 7th overall pick for the Sacramento Kings. I don't think they would go like Franz Wagner here at 7 or Davion Mitchell. I think they might go for a long-term pick here in Josh, or in, it comes down to between one of the Johnsons for me. It's either Keon or Jalen. Their backcourt right now it's a little crowded with Fox, Halliburton, and Hield to find some minutes, so maybe they wouldn't go Keon Johnson. I think, like, at this point, you're not really drafting on positional value anyway. You're going for best player available. But I think they already kind of are projecting Halliburton and Fox to be their long-term backcourt. And they would go for somebody with, I think, a little bit more risk, but a little bit more upside in Jalen Johnson to be a 3/4 for them. Because Barnes might be gone down the line. And, hey, they can use another one because Bagley and Barnes isn't really the long-term answer there. Johnson shot the ball really well at Duke before he did opt out middle of the way into the season. But he's somebody with his frame, his style of play, be a very good player in the NBA, and I think the Kings would have to realize that at 7, know it's a little bit of a risk, but can know the reward if they were to take Jalen Johnson. So on the board at 8, I think the Magic are a team that also maybe wouldn't go for a more veteran player in the draft. Like, when I say veteran player, I mean like Davion Mitchell, because he's a junior, Corey Kispert, senior. So I think they could go like Isaiah Jackson, a project big, because I know they're not going to re-sign both Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba, so we can kind of step in. Keon Johnson seems like too good of a player to keep on the board here, and I think, yeah, I just don't see a world where Keon Johnson falls past the 8th overall pick. And I know they didn't take Jalen Suggs before, but I think already adding Jonathan Kuminga and getting Keon Johnson, who's probably the 3rd best guard in this class, or I guess 4th best guard behind Cade, Green, and Suggs. Yeah, Cade, Green, and Suggs. He's probably the consensus 4th guard in this class. I think getting him at pick 8 is good value as well. And then you kind of already have your backcourt. There it is. It's Fultz, Anthony, Johnson, and Hampton, and then you kind of like move, I guess, Terrence Ross to the 3, and you just kind of go from there. Let him be there with Chinua Kiki and Jonathan Kuminga or Isaac, whoever they decide to play there. But you get Keon Johnson, and because obviously RJ Hampton isn't the long-term answer at the 2, and I don't think Jalen Suggs is a 2 at all. I think he's a 1, but Johnson being a 2, in my opinion, could probably be more of a secure long-term answer than what RJ Hampton is for them at the moment. So on the clock at 9, the Toronto Raptors, a team that could definitely not look for a project player because they would like to be in the playoffs again next year. So I think they would look at Franz Wagner out of Michigan, or they could look at Corey Kispert out of Gonzaga. There's a chance they like the project player in Isaiah Jackson, but I think they don't want to take the risk. They already have Boucher and Siakam there, and yeah, he could obviously be better than one of them down the line, or more better than Boucher, I guess, than Siakam. But I think that they're going to lose Kyle Lowry. I don't think he's going to be back next year. They're going to need that. I was going to say they're going to need that point guard off the bench, but I think Fred VanVleet will be that point guard. And they already used their first-round pick last year in a point guard in Malachi Flynn. So I think they would go Franz Wagner here with the 9th overall pick, 9th on ESPN's board. They're going to take him there at 9. Someone who's a good shooter, a good facilitator, could be put in the Nick Nurse offense and kind of flourish, honestly, to help pretty much upgrade their bench at the moment. Because, yeah, like I said, I don't think Lowry's coming back. You got VanVleet, you got Anunoby, you got Gary Trent. That's kind of your 1, 2, 3 next year. And then you also have Siakam and Boucher, but he could be a nice portion, or a nice piece, I should say, to their bench. So on to the Wizards at 10. Another team that really could use a big man in Isaiah Jackson. I'm sure they would have loved to win the lottery and end up with an Evan Mobley, but that would be tough to see that happen. They could go for a more project player in Josh Giddey or Isaiah Jackson, like I already mentioned. They could go for a junior or senior in Mitchell or Kispert. I think it would come down between one of those 4 players, honestly. Number 8 to 13 right here, as you can see. Maybe they go Alperen Sengun. Like I said, I don't know much about these foreign players at the moment. I've been watching actually a little bit of Josh Giddey, because he's actually really fun to watch. You should watch a little bit of his game. But they could go Alperen Sengun. I've heard that they could be went to a big, and he could be that guy. But I don't know if they would go him. I think they would go and target Isaiah Jackson, who could be a better long-term answer than Thomas Bryant at that 5. But hey, maybe he could be the 4 next to Thomas Bryant. And then you obviously have Denny Avdia and Rui Hashimura as your 3s. And this moves Bertans to the bench in your long-term plan. So I'm going to have them go Isaiah Jackson there with the 10th overall pick. And that's my top 10. That's 33% of the draft done. And that's what it's looking like. So on the board here at 11, I think that the New Orleans Pelicans are looking for more shooting to surround Zion and pretty much build around Zion. And what's better than one of the best shooters, if not the best shooter in this class, Corey Kispert, the senior from Gonzaga. Give Zion some shooters, space the floor, and hey, I think he's a perfect option for them at 11. I don't think that's too high to take him. I think if he's there at 11, you got to do it. And at 12, I think the Pacers are going to go Davion Mitchell to be their point guard. There's been some rumors at the deadline that they might have moved Malcolm Brogdon. Who knows if he's going to be moved in the offseason. Aaron Holiday doesn't look like he could be a long-term answer at that starting point guard position. So why not take a chance on one of the best defensive players in this class, but also a great shooter in Davion Mitchell to potentially be that point guard that you can build around for the future. Even though he's a junior and he might be a little bit older, I feel like the Pacers don't care too much about that. So on the clock here at 13 for the Golden State Warriors, I think that they would absolutely love to get Corey Kispert here, another shooter off the bench. They could also look for another big man like Kai Jones. I think they would also look at Alperen Sengun there or Usman Garuba, who I know is very raw, but could be a very good player. I think it would be one of these foreign players at this current moment. Now it's like, do they want Alperen Sengun or like a big to maybe back up James Wiseman? They used a high pick on a center last year. Are they going to use another lottery pick on a center? Who knows? I think they would go Sengun here, somebody that turns the ball over a little bit much, and he's not really much of a shot blocker at 6'9", but he's been an efficient scorer in the Turkish League, not much of a shooter, but somebody that the Warriors can use as a backup big if they don't want to maybe bring back Kevon Looney, or they kind of want to move on from Kevon Looney later on. It's just they could probably use some more bigs. Yes, they could also use another wing player off the bench because they're probably not going to bring back Kelly Oubre next year. So that maybe is it Cam Thomas? Do they go James Bouknight? Do they go Josh Giddey? I'm still going to stick to my gut on Sengun there at pick number, 13. So on to the Spurs at 14. I think I really like the Usman Garuba pick here for them, just because LaMarcus Aldridge has obviously left. He's retired. They could also go Kai Jones here out of Texas, and I think actually I do like Kai Jones a little bit for them more, and he could be moved in that front court. Obviously, they don't have their four now that, or their long-term four. Is it Luka Šamanić? Who knows? But it doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt to bring in more competition there and just kind of throwing some more stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. All right, on the clock here at 15, we have the Charlotte Hornets, the first team not in the lottery. And with Malik Monk and Devontae Graham possibly both leaving in the offseason, I think they would look to add another guard, specifically one that's maybe a good shooter. So they could go Josh Giddey, they could go Cam Thomas, they could look at maybe some of these ball hunters in Manning Cooper, but I think they could also look more at Bouknight and Moses Moody, and I think they're going to go for the 6'6" freshman Moses Moody, somebody with a lot of potential coming out of Arkansas who had a pretty solid tournament. It wasn't great, but what was at least noticeable, helping, I think Arkansas was it go to the Elite Eight, or it was definitely the Sweet 16. And yeah, like I said, Malik Monk, Graham possibly both leaving next year, add in another guard to build around LaMelo Ball. Obviously, he is your franchise corner piece. So, onto the clock here at 16 for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think they could also go for another two, and I like James Bouknight here out of UConn, somebody that could slide in next to Ja Morant and be that long-term backcourt piece next to Ja for the future. On the clock here at 17, I think the OKC Thunder, they do like their foreign prospects. They used two last year on Pokusevski and Taylor Maledon. I think they would go Josh Giddey here at 17, somebody that can play the 1 or the 2 or the 3. He's a great playmaker. He's got a big size, and I think the Thunder could really use that, maybe being a guard or a lead ball handler off their bench long term. Because obviously, for what we have in this class, they already have Jalen Suggs, they already have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and somebody that's kind of more for the bench long term than really building around in your starting lineup. Onto the 18th overall pick for the Atlanta Hawks. I would like Usman Garuba here if they weren't going to bring back John Collins, but I think that they will bring back Collins. So I think they could look for, like, obviously another guard, maybe a backup one. Lou Will's a free agent. They traded away Rondo. Chris Dunn, I don't think is going to be there long term. So I do like maybe more of a experienced lead guard. They could go Trey Mann. I do like Ayo Dosunmu. Obviously the more I guess a lesser experienced pick here could be Sharif Cooper. But I think I'm going to have them go Ayo Dosunmu out of Illinois. Just kind of have that veteran presence, or that veteran college presence off the bench. A good scorer, somebody that's great in transition. I know he's compared a lot to Kyron Lewis as well. And I think the Hawks could like his just style of play to come off their bench and be their long-term backup point guard to Trae Young, because it wasn't Rondo, obviously, and I don't think it is going to be Chris Dunn. So on the clock here at 19, the Boston Celtics, a team that could use some shooting. I know they drafted Aaron Nesmith last year. Romeo Langford, he's finally playing for them. They could also go for another big, and that could be Garuba here. They do have, obviously, Robert Williams, who's kind of emerged over Grant Williams. They have Lou Kornet, Mo Wagner, Tristan Thompson. It's tough here. It's between Cam Thomas or Usman Garuba for me with this pick here at 19. And, I think the Celtics would take a chance on another big in Garuba. I think they would long term, and look at Garuba to maybe not play right away in year one, but kind of be an experienced guy and learn from some other bigs on that team. Yeah, I'm going to have them take Usman Garuba. I could definitely see them not doing that. I just think they got to see the value in Garuba at 19 and be like, okay, this guy has top 10 potential if his skills can translate from the international level over to the pro level, and they got to be like, all right, it's too good to pass up on. So on to the Knicks at 20, I think they would go with a guard and somebody that can maybe be their franchise point guard. I think they're going to definitely look to go after Lonzo Ball in free agency, but they can also use this on a draft pick because Immanuel Quickley really isn't your leading ball handler / playmaker. He's more of an off-ball shooter. Unfortunately, I don't think it's Frank Ntilikina either as their franchise point guard. So I think they would go and look at Sharife Cooper or Tre Mann, and I'm going to have them select Tre Mann, the 6'5" point guard out of Florida there with pick 20 now. We have the Rockets with their second first-round pick here at 21. They get the Blazers pick from the Robert Covington trade. So I already had the Houston Rockets select Cade Cunningham. And with Cade Cunningham, John Wall, I don't think they would go with another guard like Sharife Cooper or Jared Butler here. I think they'd go with a project wing player in Zaire Williams out of Stanford. Somebody's efficiency has not been good at the collegiate level. He's from Sierra Canyon, but the tools are definitely there. He looks like he could also be a pretty solid defensive player at the next level. People compare him a little bit to Keon Johnson, but Keon Johnson definitely noticeably as a better defender. But I think that the Houston Rockets would like the value with their second first-round pick in this draft. And they go Zaire Williams here with 24. Do you want to see where ESPN has Jaden Springer ranked? Okay, he has him at 28. So the Knicks on the clock here at 22. They are going to have 2 first-round picks in the draft no matter what. This one is from the Dallas Mavericks from the Kristaps Porzingis trade. And I think they would look at some shooting. And they would grab Cam Thomas out of LSU, who's probably up there with Corey Kispert as the best shooter in this draft. And probably maybe the best off-ball shooter in this class as well. Now on the clock here, 23, the LA Lakers, I think that they would go Sharife Cooper. Dennis Schroeder, I think, turned down a contract extension. Who knows if he's coming back next year. And then Sharife Cooper could be a better long-term backup point guard over the GOAT Alex Caruso, who's also a free agent, and they could look to develop him as well there. And maybe they bring back Schroeder on a 2-year bridge contract, and then they let Cooper groom for 2 years on half of his rookie contract to be their franchise point guard or their next long-term point guard 2 years from now. So this is the Houston Rockets' third first-round pick in this class. They have Zaire Williams. They have Cade Cunningham. And I think here at 24, they could look for another guard, but I think they would go big man, and they would take Charles Bassey out of Western Kentucky. Maybe project him to be a long-term centerpiece next to Christian Wood with Wood at the 4, and you could have Bassey at the 5. So the Denver Nuggets, who have their first round pick in this class, could go multiple options. They could go for a big. Maybe they like Greg Brown. I think Brown would be good value here at 25. But I think they'd look to grab another guard. They traded away Gary Harris and RJ Hampton at the deadline. I think that they would go Jaden Springer out of Tennessee and have him, Jamal Murray, and Monty Morris as your kind of 3 primary guards, but then Springer can also play the 2. His size and his defense at Tennessee makes me think that he could guard 2s in the NBA, so he could definitely be a shooting guard at the pro level, and especially for the Denver Nuggets. At 26, I think the Philadelphia 76ers would go Chris Duarte out of Oregon, basically a 3-and-D guy that they could definitely use with Danny Green being a free agent. And obviously, being a 3-and-D player is so valuable in this league. I think the Sixers would absolutely be like ecstatic if he falls down at 25. I feel like he's a player that's just going to be rising up draft boards when we come to the draft, and he could be like a guy that gets into that lottery conversation. On the clock here at 27, the Brooklyn Nets, them having their first round pick this year, pretty huge because they can add another long-term, fairly cheap piece here with the 27th overall pick. And I'm going to have them go Greg Brown, a very, very raw prospect that will probably not be good right away and probably shouldn't play right away. But he's somebody that could be a good rotational piece for them next year and then maybe slide into that starting role in a couple years. Blake Griffin most likely not back. Marcus Aldridge retired. DeAndre Jordan getting up there in age. Nicholas Claxton. Hey, he could be better than Nicholas Claxton. And he could just be somebody that could back up KD at the 4 if they were going to go that route throughout the next couple of years. On the clock here at 28, the LA Clippers, another team that would love to get their next, I guess, point guard for the future. They traded for Rondo, but we know his age. They could go Max Amos here out of Oral Roberts, who made his name known in the tournament. Or they would go Jared Butler, and I think they would go Jared Butler out of Baylor, seeing what he also did in the tournament on both sides of the ball and how valuable he could be, and learn behind maybe Rondo for another year, because I believe, Rondo has one more year on his contract. On the clock here at 29, the Phoenix Suns. I think they would go Max Amos here out of Oral Roberts, somebody that could be behind Chris Paul, a sophomore coming out of Oral Roberts, but he was a fantastic scorer, efficient on pretty much from the field, from 2s, from 3s, and from the line. A great defender as well. Maybe compared to just like Javon Carter on the defensive side, but way better of an offensive player. And yeah, be behind Chris Paul for another year and maybe develop him to being your next guy to be in the backcourt with Devin Booker. Always looking at long term with a lot of these picks. And then finally in the first round, the last pick is going to be made by the Utah Jazz. And I'm going to have them select Marcus Bagley out of ASU, another wing piece which they could definitely use for their bench. So yeah, this is my full first round mock draft. This is my first round mock draft that I have made. So drop a like if you guys did enjoy. And let me know down below, do you like the pick I made for your team or do you disagree? Please let me know down below. And yeah, drop a like if you guys enjoy mock draft videos and you want to see more on the channel. I love you guys. I'll probably upload a picture to Twitter like of the summary. I love you guys and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.